This is what they don't want you to know about the pickup artist industry. Mids watch. Ryan, welcome. I'm not going to give you the spiel. If this is your first time watching, just stick around. You'll enjoy the ride. The Married Red Pill. This one, 7 years ago again. They're all 7. We're almost down to 6 years ago stuff. It's pretty neat. It was about an article from ABC, if you can believe that. Real social dynamics and the evolution of the pickup industry. It's almost narcissism training. I guess, if I remember, I'm going to put an article into the description. You're welcome to check it out. And it's just by this guy, James Purtill. Of course he uses Night at the Roxbury photos. And he was just doing an expose about how how the pickup artist is treating guys to be narcissists. And that's bad. Which kind of chimes in with what everybody knows. Like, narcissism is really the male personality type and borderline personality is the female. But everybody equates narcissism with the extreme narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder, as opposed to thinking on it as a spectrum. It's like anything. Toxicity always, the dosage always matters for toxicity, and that's anything. So there was this nice big thing, you know, man bad, narcissism bad, pick up evil, training men to be Elliot Rodger. Your standard hit piece stuff. And then Jack Tennehart's kind of read through it, and he, like me, kind of did it as a hobby while we were getting our own lives underway. And he goes, you have to realize the profile of your typical pickup artist follower is a codependent young man with one narcissist parent and one codependent parent. The combination almost guaranteed the young man will be severely codependent himself and essentially put all of his self-worth into making other people feel good. And while being an empathic and selfless person are generally considered virtuous, they are orthogonal to attraction. A well-adjusted woman will go on a few dates with a charismatic and selfish guy, then realize he's selfish and stop seeing him. She won't go on any dates with a selfless but otherwise milquetoast guy. This is how our codependent young man becomes a nice guy. He's lonely, he doesn't want to be lonely, he's upset that his best qualities do nothing about him being lonely. So this could be, 10-minute speech in and of itself, but we've sort of changed the rules on young men but kept the expectations the same. I don't know why it's so hard to get constructive, yet actionable dating advice for men. I do know that it's pretty easy for these nice guys to get frustrated because, for example, we still expect men to initiate courtship and we virgin shame men about as much as we slut shame women. I realize this is swerving dangerously close into the men's rights advocacy territory, so let me stipulate, I don't think it's anybody's fault or some kind of intentional outcome of feminist movements or whatever. But I do think if women were taught to take more initiative in their dating lives and maybe stopped using the word virgin as an insult, you'd have fewer guys that were susceptible to this. Since there is no ultimate good to defer to, you have to know what you want so that you can ask yourself the right questions. By this, I mean how our nice guy is now ripe for PUA, because they have actionable answers to his questions. We've already established the codependent nature makes him desperate to please others, yet this is not a sexually attractive quality. He is literally outsourcing his happiness to others, and that's why he's unhappy. So the pickup artists come along, otherwise known as how to outsource your happiness to others and convince them how to make you happy. Most guys, despite their codependency, are well adjusted enough not to take the pickup stuff entirely seriously. In a healthy form, it's mostly just like coaching for job interviews. Act professional, not desperate, highlight your strengths, don't act secure about weakness, look them in the eye. I know most of you blue pill individuals think this is stupidly self-evident, or think there are countless resources to give you this advice without the taint of the pickup artists. But seriously, how can I not be a virgin anymore is a question a lot of young men ask, and some hand-waving about you building your social circles, identity capital, fit of body and mind, that's great and all, but seriously, the guy wants to be a non-virgin really badly. So then, red pill. You come take these codependent nice guys, desperate for female validation, you teach them some sneaky car salesman routines, while cosmetically useful, don't really solve the problem, and some sunset, you guys realize, what the fuck are we going through all this trouble for women? Why are we putting so much of our self-worth based on this? Good questions, but seriously, this is your nice guy. This is your nice guy, pickup artist, red-pilled evolution. You guys want to know how we end up this way? Well, this is how. Now, I'm not trying to condemn society for selling short. There's countless opportunities for you to open your eyes and realize your feelings are being stoked by another person, convincing you to pay them money in return for non-virginhood, and it's not a new thing. Men have been paying money to be non-virgins for a long time. Like, seriously, the next commercial you watch was something marketed towards men, and tell me when the subtext isn't, buy this thing and attractive women will want to have sex with you. We think only Axe body spray and Old Spice commercials are funny because they're being overt with it. If you don't get it, good for you. You had well-adjusted parents, well-adjusted friends, positive male role models who taught you the thing, like women work for attraction and professional competence and emotional empathy, and none of this was true and you pieced it together yourself. How do I become a non-virgin in a constructive and healthy way? I would encourage you to work through your community for whatever definition of community you want to use to teach men to become the same. You want to neuter the terpers, that's the easiest way. I guess I should preface too, this was him talking to the Blue Pill subreddit, who just put it up and they loved shitting all over us. And this was his way of kind of like bridging the gap, which is why a lot of that sounded like he was shitting all over pickup artists in the red pill. It's standard Trumpian tactics, right? Talk to them in their language, bring them over to your side. Of course, it didn't really go anywhere. Everything was just kind of more hand waving and nothing ever gets answered. And this is the funny part. Like, you can feel whatever way you want to about the red pill, about pickup artists and whatever. And the real funny thing is it's the only place where people are even trying to solve the problem. As far as pickup, like, I did it myself. It was a hobby, definitely not a career. In my early 20s when I was in the military, if I haven't told the story before, I was sailing like 180 days a year. And it was impossible to go on a date and then, hey, you wait for 3 months and then we'll have a second date because I'm sailing? It's like, no, never happens. So I had to gamify it and I'm like, perfect. It's like training wheels and I could speed up the process because otherwise I just wasn't getting anything. Nothing at all. And like most guys, it's like, well, just walk up and talk to them. It's like, I don't know what to say. You can sit there and be entertaining, but then at some point you're like, all right, now what? And what it did is it offered like training wheels. So, okay, so you talk about this stuff and then you switch over to this. You can start with openers. This is how you like engage a group that you've never met before, build some interest, find out who's a good person to talk to and who's a bad person to talk to. How you escalate from friendly talk and make it sexual so you know that they know you want to sleep with them and not just you want to be a friend. How do you set up your logistics in such a way that, these things can just happen? It turns out spontaneity takes a lot of planning. And I remember, I was even talking about this today. There was one point where I was with a girl. I can't remember who it was, which, whatever. And she just looked over and she's like, you realize you don't have to try so hard, right? Basically saying I was a sure thing. And at that point, I was like, oh, that's great. I skipped like 8 out of the 9 steps that you had to do there. And that's when I realized, okay, and this is probably what he's referring to as that healthy, non-codependent way of looking through it. So when he talks about these codependent guys, I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. From what I've seen, the codependent guys tend to be the ones that get angry and quit and turn into Elliot Rodger. But for me, it was just tools. Like, I think everybody tries to make this red pill thing out to be this giant cultural zeitgeist and this big shift and this giant community. Like, there's no community. Guys aren't women. We're not communal that way. There's no coherent ideology. Some are liberals, some are conservatives, some are Neanderthals. It doesn't really matter. None of this matters. It's the same as the pickup thing. It's just there's a bunch of knowledge in there of which it's either useful or not useful. And the only way to tell the difference is to try things out, replicate the things that work, don't replicate the things that don't work. And if you're so inclined, which a lot of people don't, but some do, just leave your own notes to either reinforce the good parts or not the bad parts. And then eventually you do that for about a decade, you're going to get something put together that seems to work fairly well. And that's really all it has to be. And the worst thing you can do, and I'll say this right now, the worst thing you can do is take this stuff seriously. Because as soon as you start doing that, that's when you start getting into these conversations about the cultural zeitgeist and the articles like, what do they call it? Real social dynamics and the evolution of the pickup industry. It's narcissism training. It's like, fuck off. You just want to get laid. Guys just want to get laid. And you know what? All the other stuff, all the stuff that you use to apologize for, oh, it's not just about getting laid, it's about blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're right, but that's kind of like a forethought. You work out because you want to get laid, and then you find out, hey, I'm healthy and I don't have cancer and my back doesn't hurt. That's awesome, but that's not why you did it. Same as this, and just own it. Or better yet, just don't tell anybody you do any of this stuff. That would be awesome.